Hi, it's Joe Mazumdar, Exploration Insights. I'm at the PDAC edition of the Metals Investment Forum in Toronto, and with me right now is the CEO of Inflection Resources, Alistair Waddell. Alistair, how's it going?
Thanks for having me on, Joe.
We just did the presentation, and that I guess a bit of background. It's hard to do grassroots exploration, especially undercover, even in a known district when you're a junior company. And I guess, like in terms of Inflection, how did you started in 2018 as a private company, built up a big land package, but in terms of exploring, what has been the success of doing this with Inflection where others probably may have failed?
Yeah, I mean, I'd step back a bit further. I mean, why did this whole thing come about? And it was really revolved around a good idea. And we're exploring the northern extension of this belt that's hosts all these big mines located further to the south. And for me, perhaps naively at the time, I thought it'd be a relatively straightforward process to explore undercover. And, the opportunity was nobody else was doing it. So we were able to secure this big land position. But, I think where you're going with that is it is challenging for a junior explorer, particularly a private one at the time, to raise capital to go and do this. But, we ran things on a shoestring. I mean, nobody was really getting paid a lot of money, and it was really all the money was going into the ground in those early couple of years. But really, to take on a big project like this, you really need a big mining company as a partner, essentially, and that's what we did. But we did have to have a bit of a proof of concept beforehand. Yeah, we had to drill quite a few holes ourselves to show that we could firstly drill through the cover.
Right.
That was a big question mark.
That was more the technical aspect of actually.
And then really just obviously the capital. But once we had that sort of technical proof of concept, we hit rocks at the right age. We confirmed that this belt of rocks did in fact continue under the cover sequence. That was really the critical moment, and especially when we hit a little bit of early alteration.
And I guess the idea was that, this stuff is going undercover, but you can see it because the state, New South Wales, did a mag survey. And then one of your directors or technical advisors, Doug Haynes, who found Western Mining's Olympic Dam, which is now BHP, involved with Ernest Henry, Kamoa in Africa, did the mag interpret from the data that you guys didn't pay for.
Correct.
But you interpreted, and that was the idea. You did the technical aspect of being able to drill undercover, and then you started hitting the right age rocks, and that brought in this partner.
With Anglo Gold, absolutely. Yeah. But we needed to walk it out for Anglo Gold and the other majors we were speaking to really prove that we could explore undercover.
And so that sort of says something about the majors not doing a lot of grassroots exploration themselves and then counting on technically minded juniors to do it for them.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, we really did put on a little bit of a platter for Anglo Gold, and I can't speak for those guys, but really we assembled the very best team of technical people in particular to solve this problem. We brought in Alan Wilson, who did his PhD at the Cady deposit further to the south.
And worked for
Newcrest. Douglas Haynes, who you mentioned, has been serially successful drilling undercover for Western Mining and things like this. Stuart Smith, who'd worked at North Parks. We more recently brought in Fraser McCorkindale, who was head of exploration for Newcrest for many, many years. So it was really, the team of people we assembled, plus having that big district scale land position that we'd staked ourselves. So there was no underlying deals per se. It was a relatively straightforward story. And the ability to execute. I mean, some of the people like myself come from major mining companies backgrounds as well. And that ability to even just manage the data correctly, the health and safety aspects of exploring, all these types of things, I think really came together. And
because once you have a major involved, they have certain sort of guidelines as to who you can hire in terms of a contractor, what does the site look like, safety issues and all that. But I guess for me going forward, all of that, which it was not an overnight success, but you drilled a hole at this one prospect, which was initially a high priority target that took a bit of a backseat with Duck Creek, but now you came back and drilled it, and that was probably the thing that lifted your share price the most.
Yeah, it's a great story. I mean, we've we started on this target called Trangie. It was actually our number 1 ranked target, according to Douglas Haynes, who generated these targets. And we got a lot of smoke in terms of favorable geochemistry and alteration, and we knew in the right rocks with the right age, et cetera, but we never had that slam dunk, real good mineralized intercept. So we continued and we started marching north through all of our various targets. But one thing we did, and this is a great takeaway, is late last year we paused our drilling because we pretty much drilled nonstop for about 18 months. And we were kind of just a little bit swamped with data and just core, and we hadn't really paused to take stock of what we'd actually done. So we paused, look at the data, and this one shallow hole, actually it was hole number 10 that we drilled in New South Wales, just lit up in terms of the geochemistry. And we went back and looked at the core, and there was some tiny little veinlets of magnetites and some micro veinlets of quartz in the core that had been noted, but we hadn't paid too much attention to them, to be frank. And it was a step out hole from that.
And a step out meaning?
We stepped out about 300 meters.
Yeah, so it's not...
Sorry. It's all relative.
It's a big step out.
It's a big step out. We're looking for something big here that returned these sort of, several tens of meters of sort of 0.4 grams per ton.
Right from the edge of the cover right into the bedrock.
Correct, yeah. So the whole hole was...
And it ended in mineralization.
Yeah, it was mineralized from top to bottom. Certainly from the top of the bedrock down to the bottom of the hole. Not headline numbers, but the key there is the significance of these. When you combine it with the geochemistry, not just the gold, but the multi-element geochemistry and the alteration that we're seeing in the rocks and the types of veining we're seeing in the rocks. And what we're seeing was alteration very, very typical of what you would see in proximity to one of these other big alkalic porphyry systems to the south of us in the belt, so like Cadia, for example. But we do still get the sense, despite having reasonable gold numbers, that we're still a little bit distal to where we need to be. So right now we're planning a series of little step-out holes from there, probably going to be around about 200-meter step-outs, and that's going to help us vector, hopefully, to the sweet spot, the warmer spot in the system. And that's what we're gearing up to kick off here in the next few days.
So right now, according to your presentation, the phase 1 stage of the exploration with AngloGold is almost coming to a end with respect to their budget. You've got one project already outlined for Duck Creek. So in terms of catalysts, we should see what falls out in terms of projects in the coming months.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't speak for AngloGold, obviously, but the way the deal is structured, at the end of that $10 million phase of exploration, Anglo retains the right to select up to 5 projects. They've already brought one in early because of some earlier success, but there's potentially another 4 projects going to come in. And
then everything else comes back to you at 100%, importantly.
Correct. Everything else
all the work done on it.
That's right. And then at that point, we'll look at the data again, and we will probably drop some ground. But until we receive notification from AngloGold which projects they want, we'll keep everything together. But there will be an element of reducing the portfolio and allow us to focus in on other priority targets as well.
So coming forward with respect to the drilling, what should we see with respect to Inflection?
So really, it's about Trangie right now, and we and AngloGold absolutely want to focus on this target where we've got these nice gold intercepts, and it's the next news will be really revolving around drill results from Trangie. So it's going to be a pretty exciting little period for the company. We know this has been well received by AngloGold, and everybody's particularly excited about this. And I say not just the gold grades, but all the other bits, the age of the rocks, the alteration, the veining, when it's all together. So we consider it pretty significant.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Alistair.
Thank you.
Alistair, CEO of Inflection Resources, doing grassroots explorations undercover in the highly prospective Macquarie Arc belt of New South Wales. And that's it for me, Joe Mazumdar, Exploration Insights at the PDAC edition of the Metals Investment Forum in Toronto. Thank you for watching.